Welcome to the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer. Each week on their show, they help authors create books that transform our lives and imaginations. Through radio excellence, they create a unique community resource, one that promotes, connects, and fosters a sense of well-being. They serve listeners by providing outlets for their creative skills and energies, and they help them flourish in the competitive marketplace. Their weekly show provides intros, writing spotlights, helps you in promoting your book, your writing, your publishing, your marketing tidbits, and much more. Okay, audience, here's the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer.
And welcome back to Author's Edge radio show. I'm your host, Guy L. Freer. And each week on Author's Edge, we bring you thoughtful, lively conversations with writers, publishers, songwriters, illustrators, and artists as we explore the power and craft of storytelling. You can catch us live every Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH FM 929 and KXOK FM 1029, or stream online at kwrh.com and kxok.com, and on the free apps iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and TuneIn. Author's Edge also airs nationwide Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on the My Genre Radio Network. Missed an episode? You can find us anytime on SoundCloud, YouTube, or at authorsedge.org. Now that's authorsedge.org. And today's segment of Author's Edge radio show is sponsored by J.J. Rennick, author of medical conspiracy suspense novels, including her latest release, Proscription, all available on Amazon. Look for her Seek to Silence series coming soon this year. And now let me introduce you to a man spends his days discussing Aristotle and his evenings deciding who saves the world. Clearly, this is someone who believes in rage. You like that? I thought that was marvelous. Mark Sanders is a professor of philosophy at Three Rivers College in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. He is the author of 3 novels, Dylan's Treasure, The Spring of Lanfilin, and Shannon's Promise. His books form a trilogy of epic high fantasy stories about the adventures of Dylan and Shannon, a couple who live in an alternate version of Earth where magic is a reality. He attended the University of Missouri, Columbia, where he earned degrees in journalism and English. He also attended the University of Illinois Springfield to earn graduate credits in philosophy. Mark and his wife, Amy, have 7 children, 9 grandchildren. When he is not teaching or writing, he enjoys working as a freelance sports writer, gardening, distance running, and playing the drums. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Very pleased to be here today.
To Author's Edge. Now, philosophy professor, fantasy novelist, sports writer, drummer, grandfather of 9. That's not a resume. That's a lifestyle. So tell me, how did all of this begin?
He's Poplar Bluff's Renaissance man.
Yeah, absolutely is. Oh my goodness.
Strangely enough, it began in high school at Poplar Bluff. I was offered a scholarship to attend Mizzou. I didn't know what I wanted to be as a grown-up. I knew that I wanted to be a writer. I mean, that had always been my goal, and I'd been writing all through high school. And so I was, once I was awarded the curator's scholarship at University of Missouri. And so the local newspaper called to talk to me about that. And the writer was also a Mizzou grad, and she had gone to journalism school. So she said, "Hey, Mizzou's got a great journalism school. You should think about that if you want to be a writer." And I looked into it and I thought, I don't have anything else going on. Sure. Sounds like a good idea. So, what I had kind of envisioned was finding a career as a journalist for a while, and then using those experiences to get into the publishing business, in one way or another. What I discovered, strange enough, in journalism school was I had a real talent and affinity for graphic design, which is strange because I have no independent artistic abilities at all. I mean, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, but this was at the dawn of computer design. I used some of the earliest forms of Adobe Photoshop and Aldus PageMaker, which eventually became Adobe InDesign and all of that software. And I found that I liked that much more than I liked newspaper writing, which at that time was very much like, here's a story that I spent 3 hours on, and you hand it over to the copy desk, and they spend 30 seconds rewriting it for you, handing it back to you. It's like, go type this in. It's like, we could have started at that point and saved ourselves a lot of time. So I stuck around. When I was done with my journalism degree, this was in 1990, the university offered me a graduate fellowship in English in their creative writing program. So that gave me an opportunity to spend another 2 years writing, working in workshops, teaching writing, and it seemed like a great opportunity. I've always had a real affinity for college and education. It's really no surprise that I ended up with this as a career. So stayed for a couple more years, earned my master's degree in English, and then I was in the graphic design business from 92 to about 99, and it was in the fall of 99 that I came on board at Three Rivers College. I worked on the staffing side for my first 5 years, and then moved over to English faculty in 2004. And at that time, English faculty taught philosophy. There was just a crossover there. And eventually I got to where I was mainly teaching philosophy courses, and then took on additional credentials, taking classes online. And now I teach philosophy exclusively. And I like in your intro, I don't have time enough in the evenings to write. So I get up really early in the morning and get my writing done early. Plus, my wife likes to hear the stories at night, so it's like I'm on a page quota now with my new work in progress. I've created a monster where
you have to read. You have to write in the morning so that you can read to her at night.
Yes. It's like Scheherazade, where she has to keep telling stories, but it's like that in reverse. Scheherazade is demanding the story from me each day. So I've been incredibly productive so far this year.
Good for you. That's worked out really good. So you have journalism and English. At what point did you decide, yes, but let's add a little magic?
Well, I've always been a fan of fantasy and the magic genre. One of the first rated R movie that my dad ever took me to was John Borman's Excalibur in the late 1970s. So of course you've got Merlin the Magician,
yes,
and there was any movies that had a dragon in it when I was a kid, and I include Godzilla in this. I was a little kid, I was a big fan of Godzilla movies, but dragons have always fascinated me, and magic. And, as I got older, when we had kids, my eldest daughter got me drawn into the Harry Potter novels and all of those. And of course, growing up in the 80s, we all read The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and those sorts of things. So it's always been a genre that has drawn my fascination. I love world building. I love creating all of the details of a world where magic and magical creatures are a reality. I really like to dabble in the nuts and bolts of exactly how this all works.
How do you start something like that?
It started just with an idea. I mean, my first book started with the idea that what if a young woman who was really skilled in combat wanted to be a knight in a world where no woman had ever served as a knight, a knight in armor and everything. And that's how Shannon was born. And Shannon was raised by a single father in Ireland who was a blacksmith. And before he died, he crafted this suit of armor for her, specifically for her, and it's jet black. It's black armor, different from everyone else. And now I have to put her somewhere. So I created the Kingdom of Lanfallen, which just started with me thinking about, okay, King Arthur. It comes from England and everything, and everybody's familiar with that. So I have this old index, goes all the way back to the days of the Soviet Union. That's how old it is. When you look in there, it has USSR, but it's an old atlas with these maps that you turn. And I looked at the place names in Wales, and I thought, that sounds like a fantasy kingdom. If you read the books, you'll see that I refer to their native language as Welsh, but I don't call the country Wales. The kingdom is called Llanflan. I just picked it out on a map, and I thought, there's the capital. And so the her counterpart, her partner in this is Dylan Ellesmere. He's the third and youngest son of the king at the time. That's King Malcolm, and he is born to be a builder of buildings. Strictly speaking, I call him a mason, but he's much more than that. He's an architect. He's a contractor. He's a creator. He builds these grand buildings. The title Dylan's Treasure refers to his castle. It's this grand castle that he has built for himself. And where they come together is in this annual tournament. It's called the Festival of Wayland. And that is a Welsh legend about a wolf who appears in the spring. So, there was a legendary battle hundreds of years ago where the Llanflan defeated an army of Celts. And so they commemorate this every year with a knight's tournament. And they do, knight thing, jousting and sword fighting and things like that. So she just shows up and says, I'm here. I want to compete. And we go from there.
Now,
and that's how they meet.
Does everybody know that she's a woman?
Not until she removes her helmet and they see, oh, she has long hair. It's a lady. And so it's up to the king to decide whether he's going to allow her to compete, which of course he does because he's an awesome king. I take a very positive view in my world. There certainly are villains, but if you're going to create a monarchy with all of the negative connotations that already exist in our culture about monarchies, you might as well make it a benevolent one. So that's something else really that I put into this fantasy world, is that it's much more progressive than our own history. And when I talk about digging into the nuts and bolts of world building, there are very specific events that happen that kind of change people's minds far ahead of the sort of things that we've seen in our own world and our own society. And one of those things, because part of it is just having a wife and 4 daughters, is that all of these stories are really meant for women to read. Even though I'm a male writer, there are male characters, but the women in my stories are just as strong or stronger than the men.
So this was intentional.
Yes. And so, if I want my daughters and my granddaughters eventually to read these stories, I want it to be a world where women are valued properly for all of the things that they're capable of doing.
Right. I like that. Yes. Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have to say that's kind of a fantasy world in a lot of places, but that's something else that I think is best about the fantasy genre, is that, science fiction kind of looks into the future as a mirror that reflects upon ourselves about how we are, but also in a way, at least with like Star Trek, it's aspirational about what we could be. But I think fantasy kind of does that in reverse. It kind of looks in the past and shows us how things could have been better if we had made different choices, if we had been it's a fairly peaceful world for the most part that I write about, especially in the new work that I'm working on. And I emphasize the fact that there were enough people in power who realized that trade and cooperation was much more profitable than war. And so we could spend a lot more money trading with each other and building up our cities rather than building up armies and killing each other. And so those are the sorts of things that you'll find in my books. Not that there's no conflict. You have to have conflict, obviously. But That's a much more optimistic, I think, way of looking at the world, and that's something that has also drawn me to being a writer. Is I don't like to write. It's not dark fantasy where the bad guys win at the end of the book. You can pretty much rest assured that the light is going to defeat the darkness. It's just, the question is,
how are they going to get there?
How are they going to get there? Exactly.
Okay.
I like that.
Now, why that part of the world?
I guess I've always been a bit of an Anglophile. My emphasis, I minored in English as an undergrad, and then half of the classes that I took in graduate school were creative writing seminars, and the other half were literature classes. And this was primarily English literature, British literature that I studied. So, I studied Shakespeare. I studied the metaphysical poets from the 1600s, like John Donne and George Herbert. All of the British romantics, from Wordsworth through Percy and Keats and Shelley. They've always been the most fascinating part of literature in the English language to me. And then I also had an opportunity early on in my teaching career to teach classes at Three Rivers on English literature. So that's kind of where my imaginative focus has always been.
Real quick, we have just cracked open the alternate Earth, and I have a feeling we're going to have even more. We haven't even met the dragons yet, and you're listening to Author's Edge on KXOK FM 102.9 and KWRH FM 92.9. I'm Gael Freer, and today we're exploring magic, destiny, and alternate worlds with Mark Sanders, author of Dylan's Treasure. Don't go anywhere. The adventures is just getting started. Now, did you outline the trilogy before? Or did you start with all three books? Did you start with one book? How did you start?
Well, my initial thought with Dylan's Treasure was that it was going to be a short story. And, I had 2 or 3 chapters completed, and I was already at 30 manuscript pages, just sort of your limit for a short story. And I just scratched the surface. I mean, I hadn't even gotten Dylan back to his father's castle at that point. So I said, okay, this is going to be a novel. It was the first novel length work that I had attempted at that point. So, you're just foolish enough to do what you don't know you're not supposed to be able to do, right?
Yeah.
So I kept working on that, and I started it in 1994, and then Amy and I met in 1995 and got married, and then
so this all started even before you met Amy.
Yes, I had a few chapters just sitting around gathering dust when we met, and I don't really recall at what point. It was definitely in the late 90s where I decided to pick it back up and try again, and at that point, what I had to do to finish it was, again, get up earlier than everybody else, because.
So were you reading this to Amy before?
No, not at this point. I did eventually. Once I was done with the full draft, I read it to her, and I think to the kids as well, right? But yeah, I would get up early in the morning, about an hour before the kids usually woke up, because once the kids are up, you're running around. I'm working. Yeah. There's just I don't have much mental capacity at the end of the day. I don't feel like doing much of anything at the end of the day, much less writing. So I find I'm much more productive in the morning. And once I set my mind to just getting up every day and writing for 30 to 45 minutes, I finished the first draft in about 6 months from that point. And can I pick up the book?
Sure, absolutely.
There is a copyright date in here. I've got it copyrighted 2005. So that was at the point at which it had gone through 3 significant revisions and then a final round of editing and proofreading. And I try not to look at it too much now, 21 years later, because I'm thinking, oh, I could have done so much more with this. But it is what it is, and it stands as what I was capable of doing at that point.
So, all right. So then you did Dylan's book, Dylan's Treasure, and then the next one was,
The Spring of Landfilling.
Right. And so, how did that feed in?
In 2009, we had an ice storm in southeast Missouri that anyone who was there remembers how cataclysmic it was. And we were snowed in for several days. We had to literally escape our house and travel into town to Amy's parents' house, because we didn't have power, we didn't have water, we didn't have heat, we didn't have anything.
To your mom's house.
Yeah. And so that sort of set in mind the idea of a winter storm. You mentioned that I'm a freelance sports writer. I've been a sports fan all of my life, and my favorite football team is the Minnesota Vikings. Okay. So Vikings, winter storm. And that was the genesis of the idea. What if an entire army of Vikings, and by the way, in the book, I never refer to them as Vikings because that's a modern term. They didn't call themselves Vikings. No one used that term. They refer to themselves as Norsemen.
Okay.
From Scandinavia, but they invade the entire kingdom in the middle of a horrible winter storm. Okay. And no one knows why. No one knows why. That it doesn't make any sense. That the characters are like, what have they come for? Rocks and sheep? We have nothing here. Well, it turns out that, and I don't want to give the whole book away, but it's been out for a while. But there is a magic secret hidden deep within the caverns underneath the king's castle in Landfilling. And it holds a secret that the leader of the Norsemen desperately wants to possess, and he'll stop at nothing to do so. And that's why they're there. And in order to save the kingdom, Shannon and a small group who go to assist her on this have to somehow escape from a castle that's completely under siege by the Norse, get to a ship, sail to Ireland to find a dragon, and then somehow convince this dragon to come and fight for them. And she has to do all of this in less than a week before the castle falls to the Norse.
So what's the first rule of thumb for building a believable magical world?
You have to set the rules for how the magic works. It can't be miraculous. You can't use magic as a deus ex machina to solve all of your problems. There has to be a process by which it works. So some of the rules that I created, human magicians are rare. You have to have an innate ability to do it. You can't, magicians learn magic, but you have to be able to access it. Anyway, and it's a mystery. No one knows why, but it's a select few who have the power to do this. There are two types of magic, light and dark. Light draws upon the power of the creator of the universe. So it is a theistic universe, but the power that created the universe is the same power that light magicians draw from. And they're essentially using their minds to manipulate the laws of physics. So they're using essentially atoms in the air, in the water, in the earth, and manipulating those to do certain things. On the other hand, you have dark magicians, and they draw their power from chaos, which is the dark void that existed before the universe was created. So that's the dichotomy between the two. Okay. And it's mainly a world in balance when we see that between the light and the dark, and they agree. They're not really enemies. It's just like, this is two halves of the same side, and we want to keep things in balance. Type. Right. And when we get to my third book, Shannon's Promise, we have a magician who wants to throw everything out of balance.
All right, we're going to go to a commercial break.
Okay.
We're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, I want to talk more about the writer behind the world and what might be next. Authors, artists, creative entrepreneurs want your book or project in front of a literary audience that's already listening. The Author's Edge radio show is welcoming new advertisers across KXOK 1029 FM, KWRH 929 FM, plus nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network. Our listeners are readers. They're writers. They care about stories. Ready to reach them? Call 573-714-1352. When you're ready to take your book from idea to finished product, Blue Rooster Publishing works one-on-one with authors to create books that connect, inspire, and endure. Visit blueroosterorg.com or email Gaelle Freer, that's Gaelle, Freer, Freer, at outlook.com. Missouri Writers, consider joining the Missouri Writers Guild, supporting authors since 1915. Learn more at MissouriWritersGuild.org. And we're now to commercial break. Bada boom, bada bang.
El Potro Restaurant and Market, located at 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland, offers the finest variety of Mexican and Central American groceries and goods. El Potro Restaurant serves authentic Mexican and Central American cuisine, including daily specials, not to mention the best horchata and tastiest margaritas in St. Louis. Open 7 days a week. El Potro, 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland.
Jewels on Hampton in St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks, sports memorabilia, and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa. Call them at 314-752-5000. 314-752-5000. Jewels on Hampton.
And we're back. You have given me a quote, and I'd really like to chat about that for a couple of minutes. I'm going to read the quote, and then we'll get to it. You asked. The quote reads: "You ask a lot of an Irish blacksmith's daughter," Shannon said. Orsic laughed and took her hands into his. "We both know you've always been so much more than that," he said. "We asked you to save Llanonfield from the Norse, and you did the impossible. Now we're asking you to save the world because we know that you can do it." That line, "You've always been so much more than that," that's encouragement and expectation. Who is Shannon at this moment in the story?
She's a wife, she's a mother, and most of all, she had to make a promise to this dragon when she found her in Ireland. In order to get the dragon to agree to come and fight on their behalf, and it was a life for a life is what it was. Now, I'm not going to tell you what actually happens. This is at the end of book 2, but Shannon thinks very much that that she's going to have to literally give up her life to the dragon in order to save her family and the rest of the people in Llanfillan. The dragon is much too smart to waste such a unique person. What's at the heart of Shannon's promise is that the dragon, and I have to say her name, Baroxia perditrix meticulosa,
Easy for you to say.
is her name. the dragon of Kilashandra, and that's all shortened to Asha. Asha is the dragon in question here. Asha calls upon Shannon to fulfill that promise, and what we find out is that she had 3 hatchlings that were stolen from her in Ireland years ago, and she wants Shannon to help her find what happened to her children. So that's one of the adventures in the 3rd book, is Shannon fulfilling this promise. The other one is a treasure hunt. Dylan is doing an excavation in London, and he finds an ancient manuscript that was written by none other than Joseph of Arimathea, the person who provided the tomb for Jesus. And so that sets him on this hunt. And then his brother Cain, I talk a lot about Cain. Anyway, Cain was the villain of the 1st book, and then he changes in the 2nd book and he becomes one of the heroes. Cain is searching after a man named Penwick. Penwick was a Welsh magician who was thrown out of the guild for stealing. And so he turns himself over to dark magic, and it is he who tells the secret to the Norse. He's the reason why the Norse invaded in the first place, because he gave up this secret. And it's a funny little thing. When I was writing towards the end of the 2nd book, I thought about killing him off. And I thought, no, he's a little weaselly guy. He's going to escape, and he does. And I'm so glad I did that, because I had my antagonist already set. And so he is searching after something himself. He's going after something known as the Book of Chaos, which he thinks is going to give him all of the secrets of dark magic. Turns out he gets a little bit more than what he bargained for.
How much research did you need to do for this book, for the series?
It's an entire academic career of research. I taught classes in classical mythology, in religion, in ancient cultures, in English and American literature.
How much did you pull from
all of it?
All of it?
All of it, yeah. I would tell people, it's like, I'm putting everything that I know into this book. Everything, including the kitchen sink, is going into it. So yeah, I mean, it draws upon ancient history, Christian history, the Crusades, medieval times. I mean, all of it. And not that I was trying to teach a lesson or anything. I was just trying to use all of these academic ideas and put them together in an adventure that would be fun for people to follow.
Yeah.
Now, back to the quote, is Shannon reluctant because she doubts herself, or because she understands the cost?
She knows what she has to do, and she's willing to do it. It's just, I give you a little bit of context for this. Osric is the sole source of magic in the 1st book. He's the only thing that we see, and we just get a hint about it. By the 3rd book, he has passed away, and he is appearing to her in a dream of sorts, at this sort of giving her a direction about what it is that she's going to have to do. And it's a really monumental task, because I mean, she is literally going to have to save the world, because what Penwick aims to do is to throw the entire world into darkness. He wants to bring the power of chaos and use it to just cast the entire world under his control. And she has to be able to stop that. When you're dealing, not just with the power of a magician, but the power of dark forces beyond your comprehension. It's a little bit frightening.
Is this a turning point in her identity?
It's a fulfillment of the idea that she is capable of facing her fears and not doubting herself. Having the confidence that whatever she needs to do to rise to the occasion, that she will have the courage to do so.
All right. Is evil in your trilogy personal or systemic?
In the case of Penwick, he was the son of a thief who was hanged when he was a boy, and then he was just shuttered from orphanage to orphanage. And he's an incredibly powerful magician, but he really didn't have any sort of guidance or direction, and he does not want to abide by the rules of light magic. He thinks we have all this power as magicians. Why are we not running the kingdom? Why do we have to defer to kings? Why do we have to follow the rules? It's like we should be able to make the rules for ourselves.
Right.
And he's thrown out of the guild because of that, and he holds a lot of resentments about that. I mean, I could almost feel sorry for Penwick if he wasn't such a rotten soul, because but I really do think that when we talk about real evil in this world, I do think it's a matter of people who just, for whatever reason, can't find happiness in the good in the world, and can only find some sort of satisfaction either by amassing wealth or power. And there seems to be a side of that for some people that when they get that, they use that to hurt others, and that somehow makes them feel better. It never seems to work, but that's certainly a pattern that we see over and over again in our own world.
Yeah. Do you use this book in your classes at all?
Oh, I wish I could. I can't really get away with it. I do let my students know that I've got books that are published and available. I usually keep a small supply in my office for students who want to borrow and read it. But no, not in my classes anymore. I only teach philosophy classes, really, and certainly a lot of my ideas about philosophy and some of the more sort of fun pop culture questions about philosophy, like life after death and time travel and those sorts of things, they're incorporated in. But I'm actually kind of embarrassed just giving myself a shameless plug in my classes.
You should not be. So now, are these are independently published?
Yes.
Self-published?
Yes. I have to give credit to my friend and fellow independent author Mike Tucker, one of my best friends from college. He was the one who really urged me to publish the first book myself through Kindle Direct Publishing on Amazon. I had spent the better part of a year querying publishing houses and agents. I had gotten one reply out of dozens of agent queries. It said, "Please send us a few chapters," and then that was returned with thanks but no thanks. Right. Yeah. And I tried the same with the other two books. With Shannon's Promise, I literally did not get a response. I mean, not a single response from anybody. And I had a list of agents. There was about 60 different names and addresses of people who were like, unpublished manuscripts, new authors, fantasy, young. I mean, all of it. It's like and nothing. I mean, barely even any rejections back from that. So I'm pretty much committed to self-publishing at this point. When I complete my current work in progress, which is going to be another series of 3 books.
So this is the end of this one?
Yes. This concludes, although Shannon did make an appearance this year in my Blogtober project. It's something that we do every October. 31 random words, and you have to create a story using each word of the day essentially as the title of your chapter, but you're limited to 250 words a day.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's kind of a fun thing that I do along with several of my writer friends. We do that on Facebook, but Shannon makes a return appearance in my 2025 Blogtober story, which I never thought I would bring her back. I thought at the end of Shannon's Promise that the book was literally closed on that, but she did come back, and I'm really proud of that story. And if you go to my Facebook page, you can find that, or my website, and I can talk about that as well. But no, the new work is set 200 years after the events of Shannon's Promise. It's the year 1599, and I have an entirely new set of characters in Llanfillan and England and all over the world.
Has writing fiction changed how you teach philosophy?
In part, philosophy has changed the way that I teach philosophy. I mean, one of the things that I've found is that the students teach me as much as I teach them. That the way my classes work is I'm creating an environment where they can be open-minded, where they can reflect critically about their own beliefs, where they can challenge my own assertions about the way that I look at the world, where they can work together to solve the classical problems of philosophy, like the trolley problem and other things. It's really just an open environment for intellectual growth. And I've found that my own ideas have grown and changed and evolved over the years as much as anything else. I had a student a few years ago ask me a question that just blew my mind. He says, if we die and we go to heaven, will we still have free will? And I was speechless. I was like, I don't even know how to answer that.
Yeah,
and so,
My goodness.
and that really is my experience as a professor. And it's one of the things that keeps me eager in the field and wanting to continue to teach into the future, is because, I'm learning as much as my students are.
Well, yeah, that's always, as a teacher, that's always that's always something that I always enjoyed as a teacher.
Yeah, and it definitely gives me new material to use in the stories, over and over again, especially when we talk about, I'm really digging deep in the new work about different realms, different dimensions of realities and portals between worlds. You get a lot more of that in the new work. Just a few things that I hint at in Shannon's Promise, but it's a world that 200 years later, where magic has made a real comeback in the world.
So do you have a title for your new piece?
Well, I originally called it Isla's story. Isla Ellesmere is the main character, and she is a ship's captain. It was her dream since she was a little girl to be a sailor.
So this one also has a female.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
The same sort of thing. And of course she's from the same family as Shannon. So she's part of that. She's part of that royal family. She's part of that same
great granddaughter.
Not a direct descendant, but like you would call probably like a niece of some kind. One thing I haven't done, I don't want to fall down this rabbit hole, is create a family tree.
Okay.
So I just, I just kind of throw it out there and let others kind of figure out the genealogy for themselves. 200 years later, magicians have become really entrenched and part of society. They're no longer kind of hiding behind the scenes. They're much more open. They're much more a part of
mainstream.
Yes, more mainstream. And also they're kind of what is pushing society forward in terms of progress, because
interesting.
They can do some things in the late 1500s that weren't even thought of until, several hundred years later in our own world.
So what's the gist of where you're going with this?
Oh, you had asked me about the titles. I'm sorry. I knew I was forgetting something. My working title for the first book is Forbidden Lands, which I've got just a mock-up cover just as a placeholder. And working on the second book now, I think I'm going to call it Secret Places. And I have no idea what the third is going to be. I'll have to write on the third a while before the title comes to me.
And so the focus of these books are going to be what?
This is one story in 3 parts where
Okay.
where she uncovers a conspiracy
Okay.
linked to dark magic, linked to a minor character from Shannon's Promise,
Okay.
who is an even bigger threat than Penwick was. And so the first book, we're sort of unraveling the mystery. In the second book, they're trying to figure out how they can defeat their enemy.
Okay. When you do your writing, do you do it by an outline? Do you do it by just start to write and that's that?
Seat of your pants writing.
Yeah.
is
Pants.
Yes, I'm a 100% pantser. It's interesting because I tried to do an outline for Dylan's Treasure,
Mm-hmm.
and I had it all perfect. I had it all, I knew exactly what I wanted
Right.
to do, but then I got to like the scene that would lead directly to the climax, and my outline didn't work anymore because the characters had taken on a life of their own. And if I had tried to put them in those positions, it would have seemed completely inauthentic. Anyone reading this would say, well,
That
he
doesn't
wouldn't have.
work.
Yes, it simply didn't work. So I threw the outline away and I just said, I'm just going to watch my characters and see what they do. In the second book, I would outline each chapter. When I would finish a chapter, I'd do like a 3 or 4 bullet points about what I wanted to happen in the next chapter. With Shannon's Promise, top of my head, just whatever happened that day happened.
And so as you went through it, then when you went back to revise it, it all worked out.
Oh no. Yeah, this is the hard part in revision. I'm a big believer in reverse outlines where you look at what you've written and then you kind of outline it and you see how all the pieces fit together. The other thing I had to do, this was a real challenge for Shannon's Promise. It's something I'm already working on with the new works, is the timeline, because you're in a world where people can travel one of 3 ways: horse, ship, or dragon. And there are fixed rules about a horse can only travel safely about 30 miles a day. Sailing ships go more or less about 5 knots, nautical miles per hour. I even did research on how fast a dragon can fly. It turns out the answer is 75 miles per hour at cruising speed.
Gee, that's new information for me.
And horses
against the wind or with the wind?
Depends.
Variables.
Now,
I love this.
yeah, dragons have endurance, but it's not indefinite. So they can fly for 12 to 14 hours, but then they need to rest. And if they fly for that long, they need a day off to rest in between. Horses.
Well, what if they have spitting fire? I mean, does that have any effect on that?
No. That's something I just wrote like the past couple of days, but I've referred to it before. Whenever a human encounters a dragon for the first time and touches them, what they find is like they're warm-blooded, because they're not natural creatures here on Earth. They came from another dimension of reality. So they're warm-blooded reptiles. The fire that's inside them that they're able to spit out keeps them warm. So they're warm to the touch.
Oh, okay.
So again, it's one of those magical rules that I've created for my own world. But when you create those rules, it enables you to do certain things. Like when you fly high up in the air, it's very cold.
Right.
You don't have to go very high to where it's cold. Well, the dragon's natural body heat keeps its human passengers from freezing to death.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you get me going down rabbit holes for world building, I will bore you to tears.
It's world building is something I wouldn't even know where to begin to build a world. I mean, so I'm fascinated by it. Absolutely. So what are you hoping that the readers will come and walk away with from this trilogy?
The very first thing is I want them to love the characters as much as I do. the Ellesmere family, this royal family that I have created, is like my own family. You know, I feel when I think about Dylan and Shannon, I mean, it's like I feel the same kind of love for them that I would for like my grandparents or something.
Do
like
they fall
that.
in love?
Dylan and Shannon?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
They
That's the first book is an adventure romance. So
Okay.
yeah,
They fall in love?
yes,
Oh, good.
absolutely.
Good.
Yes, spoiler. This is a spoiler, but yes, they fall in love and they get married and they have children.
Oh, good.
And you get to see that in the second and third books as well. You get to see how their lives progress. And my goodness, my wife has really fallen in love with Isla Ellesmere,
Yeah?
the new character. It's just, she goes, "This is my favorite thing that you've ever written." I'm like, "Really?" Yeah, because it took me a while to warm up to Isla just because she wasn't Shannon, you know, because I had, you know, Shannon had been in my mind for so many years, and creating a new character felt kind of strange to me at first.
So, how did it feel when you finally closed the book on Shannon's Promise and you put it aside? I mean, because I know when a writer finishes a book, it's like putting your baby aside. It's
Mhm.
like, I mean, it's your baby.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no two ways about it. So, I mean, tell me about that. You know, you're putting it aside. It's over. It's done. And you're moving on to a new project.
I'll be honest with you. When I didn't get response for professional publishing, I knew that I could go ahead with the self-publishing, and I did a huge marketing push, including, you know, paying for targeted advertising online and things like that, and it didn't move the needle at all. And I was honestly, I was so disappointed with it because, you know, so far it's the best work I've ever done, you know, and I really thought that if people gave it a chance and read it, I thought at some point word of mouth is going to take off, and, you know, this is going to do, you know, something. And when that didn't happen, part of me was just like, well, you know what? I've written 3 books. That's more than a lot of writers can say.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm proud of the trilogy. I'm proud that I've done. I can do other things with my life now. I can do other types of writing, and I did. You know, I focused on my sports writing. You know, I focused on some things that I did with my blog, but at my heart, I am a fiction writer. I mean, it's the thing that I've wanted to do since I was a little kid, was just write stories. You know, imagine a world and put it in writing and share it with others to read. So eventually that bug bit me. You know, Isla appeared a few years ago in one of my Blogtober projects. And I thought, well, I'll just go back to Landflun and we'll shoot into the future and see what happens. And that's a little story where she's brand new as a ship's captain, and they get lost at sea and kind of sucked into another dimension, and she has to team up with her crew, which includes a magician who appears in the new book. I love my magicians. You know, it's you know, they're
Don't leave home without.
yes,
Don't leave home without them.
the magicians are such an important part of the story. I think they may be the surrogate for me. You know, that whenever a magician appears
It's
as
you.
a character in the story, they're like standing in for me in a sense, because writing is a kind of magic. You know, you're conjuring something like that. But doing that October story with Isla gave me the impetus to say, when I'm ready to write another book, it's going to be about her. And it just, you know, it just happened.
But when you put Shannon aside, was there a separation anxiety? Was there, I mean, you know,
Losing
I mean,
a friend?
yeah,
or-
losing-
Yeah.
okay,
Moving on?
When I finish a book that I am absolutely in love with, there are times when I don't even want to finish the last chapter because she's a friend of mine that I don't want to put away.
Yeah.
You know, like Shannon was such a part of your life for so long. Does it, I mean,
Well, let me just read you the last paragraph
Okay.
of the book.
Blah.
Shannon dismounted and took Dylan's hand as the dragons flew away over the water. They stood together in the shadow of their castle and watched until the dragons became one with the night sky. They lingered in the silence of the night and the sureness of their presence with one another. She interrupted their reverie with a kiss and led him by the hand back into their home. So they're essentially riding off into the sunset. You know, in this case, they're going into their castle together. And then the reader takes it from there. It's like whatever happens with Dylan and Shannon is up to their imagination. Now, you know, I brought her back this past October for another short story that shows you where she is much later in her life, in a really significant way. But getting back to her and her story was, you know, it was like putting on your most comfortable pair of shoes.
Yes. Yeah. Because I know that I become, as a reader, when I get into a book, I become emotionally attached to the character, to the point where there's at least 2 books on my shelf that I refuse to finish because they are my friend. And if I finish them, then that means they're no longer part of my, it's like, and it's, people look at me like I'm got 3 heads, that I'm the, you know, because they're just like, I'm bizarre.
I have to, my favorite writer is Stephen King. And at some point, as I got older, I got to the point, I used to make fun of my mom for this, because my mom, once she gets into a book, she'll turn to the end and read the last chapter because she can't stand the anxiety of not knowing.
Yes. And I understand. I relate to that.
Yeah. And what I will do, I won't read the end, but if I fall in love with the character, I'll peek at the end to see if they're still there.
I've done
to
that.
See if they serve, because Stephen King
absolutely
is like the leading proponent of kill your darlings.
Yes,
right?
yes, he is absolutely.
Yeah, and he's created this female detective who's appeared in like half a dozen of his books, named Holly Gibney, who I just adore, and most of his fans do as well. And I think he would have to go out of business if he ever killed her off. I mean, she's that pop. And I think he probably feels the same way about Holly as I do about Shannon, and now about Isla. It's like, no, she's my girl. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah. All right. We are coming to the end of our show. Quickly, how could we, now I know that we can get your books on Amazon.
Yes.
If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you?
That would be msand, MSAND 1126 at gmail.com. That is the email address that I put on my website. And there is a link to my website on my Amazon page.
Okay.
Which if you just or you can go to Facebook, Mark Sanders in Poplar Bluff. It's a public site, and then you can just click on my link there to my Facebook page, Kingdom of Lanfalin.
Okay.
And that has all the information about my books. It also takes you to my Kingdom of Lanfalin website.
All right.
Yeah. So there are a lot of ways to get to that, but anyone who's really interested can just really, they can find me easily on Facebook, and they can message me that way.
Okay. Wonderful, Mark. This has been such a thoughtful, imaginative conversation. Thank you for bringing your world and your wisdom into the studio today. And congratulations again on Dylan's Treasure, The Spring of Lanfalin, and Shannon's Promise, a trilogy that reminds us that even an Irish blacksmith's daughter might just save the world. And to our listeners, thank you for being a part of our literary community and for supporting the stories that challenge us, inspire us, and carry us somewhere new. Thanks for listening to Author's Edge, KXOK 1029 and KWRH 929. Catch us on air each weekend. Stream KXOK.com and KWRH.com on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and TuneIn, and nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network. Missed an episode? You can find us anytime on authorsedge.org. Next time, we will be joined by Dr. Ursula Thatch and her book, You Mean I'm Not Crazy? My Hormones Have Been Betraying Me. a candid and practical guide to lifestyle changes, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, weight loss, lowering blood pressure, and restoring your body's natural hormonal balance. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, keep creating, and I'll see you around the inkwell. Bada boom, bada bang.